Shalom, shalom, shalom. Call hello, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. And of course, double honors once again go out to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who through the Holy Spirit continue to teach us His truth and wisdom. Alright? This is Nam out of the DC camp, and wouldn't you know, this is from nonprofitquarterly.org. It says, a call to check unchecked white rage. Now, alright, this is from Tiffany Turner Allen, alright, and it's got to bring up the question, like, why? What do you have to be angry about if you are an Edomite? This is your kingdom, your world. But it's only for a few of you. That's the problem. Alright? Which in any case isn't our fault. Alright? But a lot of you lower tier, all the way down to six-pack Joe, alright? And even those lower than that, you want to find out your only, I guess you could say, boon from the elites was that you look like them. That was it. Alright, so you were loud and it benefited them, meaning your attitudes toward us. Alright, you help further that hatred by the elites and being their police force, more or less, keeping us in check, what I'm trying to say. Alright, that was your sole purpose. Now that really doesn't matter anymore. Guess what? You are going to bear more of that hatred, because they never liked you either. Alright, you were just you served a purpose. Alright, continuing on, it says, for hundreds of years black people have called attention to the volatility and danger of unchecked white rage, yet no one listened to us. It says it quickly spreads like a fire, gains momentum, turns into violence, and causes irreparable harm and damage. In 1955, Mamie Till addressed this when she held an open casket funeral for her son Emmett. She wanted the world to see what unchecked white rage was capable of. It was solely responsible for brutalizing, torturing, disfiguring, and murdering her 14-year-old son. Murdered her 14-year-old son. Alright. All because of, it's known as the wolf whistle case. Alright. Wow. And before this bitch died, she admitted on her deathbed that the boy didn't do what he was accused of. But yet, she kept her mouth shut all those years. From 1955 up until when the bitch died. Alright. It says in 1960, at 6 years old, Ruby Bridges desegregated an all-white school and needed 4 federal marshals to escort and protect her from the unchecked white rage just to enter and exit the school. In the 60s, all major news networks broadcast black people being beaten with batons, sprayed with fire hoses, and attacked by police dogs as they peacefully protested for the right to eat at the same lunch counters as their white counterparts, which we all know now was a huge mistake. And that so-called search for equality. Equality with what? Alright? That weakened us as a people, because before then we had owned our own businesses. You're talking about a people that just 100 years prior, actually less, let's just say 90 years prior, that was 55, when the so-called civil rights era started, alright, with the death of Emmett Till. Alright, so you're looking at, 90 years prior, we were in hardcore bondage. Alright, a officially that is. Of course, we know that after that, suppose that Emancipation Proclamation BS, all right, which wasn't worth the paper it was written on. What did they do? They started the prison industrial complex, all right, because we must have the niggers, all right. We must continue that. We made so much money, all right. That's what this country was built on, all right. It says in 2020, the world watched the 7 minutes and 46 seconds that a Minneapolis police officer knelt on George Floyd's neck, taking every bit of life from his body. The horror of that murder replayed over and over. The carnage of black bodies should have awakened all people to see what happens when white rage is left unchecked. Then, on January 6, 2021, the same unchecked white rage turned its terror on the Capitol, fueled by the standard of lies, fear, and propaganda that fanned the flames of violence. This vicious and murderous mob that had once screamed about law and order now broke laws and were out of order. They turned and attacked the same white people in positions of power who have been often insulated and protected from this type of brutal behavior. And I must say, I had a big smile on my face because up until that point, this shows you that these same people, like this article says, all right, that were always, when it came to us at least, screaming about law and order and how, lock them up and all this, how easily they were manipulated into doing the same. Because you got to remember, this BLM, Black Lives Matter, is orchestrated, all right, funded by, or at least funded by George Soros and, the Jewish billionaire, all right. And we all know that that was largely set up to make Jake the enemy. Now here's the strange twist in this is that all the times that these agent provocateurs were found out on film trying to set things up, these mysterious pallets of bricks that turned up at these protests that thankfully Jake didn't end up using, all right, and their means of trying to justify bringing in the National Guard and all this. Well, the irony to that is these people here were set up by people like Alex Jones, all right, and then the leader of the Proud Boys turned out to be a snitch, all right. Like I say, it was beautiful to see, all right. And I'm just laughing all along because, we've read all these books that I've got here on the table. These elites tell you what they're going to do. And I'm holding this book here, and it's called Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, all right. And it outlines their 16 protocols, and it goes into protocol number 2, destructive education. 3, poverty, our weapon. We support communism. And I believe this came out in 1905, or at least it was translated then. Hold on. Let's see. Of course, this being a reprint, but originally I believe it was. Anyway, I'm just going to continue with the protocols here. Number 4 is we shall destroy God. And, feel free to check all this because these things happen and are still happening. It says masses led by lies. This current pandemic being a big one. Monopoly capital. We shall enslave Gentiles. Okay, universal war. 8 and then 9 it says Jewish superstate. And make no mistake about it, that little country, all right, has this one by the gonads. It tells this one what to do because by and large the Edomites that profess to be Christians don't understand that the so-called Jewish people, the Israelis, hate their guts. All right. case of they're being divided, all right? Wow, a lot of them not even aware of that, all right? It says our goal, world power, poison of liberalism. We name presidents. You don't vote and elect shit. They do. It says, number 11, we are wolves. Number 12, we control the press. Free press destroyed, only lies printed. Because you got to remember, in the, I guess, World War I era, where they had this term, yellow journalism, that was created then, but it didn't really take effect until far later on, all right? Because in the cases of where you had infidelity and things of that nature by certain presidents, they pretty much were protected up until, wow, I guess you could say Watergate years and things of that nature, where really you start to see it as it evolved to what we know as now. Protocol number 13, we deceive workers. 14, we shall forbid. It's got here Christ, but we know Yahweh Shai. 15, it says secret societies. Gentiles are stupid. Gentiles are cattle. We demand submission. We shall be cruel. What's the motto of the New World Order? Expect no mercy. All right. Number 16, we shall change history, and that goes into for their benefit, all the things. Let me get it real quick. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. We demand submission, and that indeed is what they're doing with this pandemic. Right? You notice that if you don't have a mask on, the crazy looks that you're getting. We should be. Here it is, number 16. It says in order. Oh, here it is. We shall get the wrong one. We shall change history. Classicism as also any form of study of ancient history. All right. The reason I'm bringing all this out because this has been their plan all along. Well, people largely slept on it, and they were able through deception to accomplish this. People fell for it. They were under that spell. It says, which there are more bad than good examples we shall replace with the study of the program of the future. We shall erase from the memory of men all facts of previous centuries which are undesirable to us, and leave only those which depict all the errors of the government of the Goyim. The study of practical life, of the obligations of order, of the relations of people one to another, of avoiding bad and selfish examples which spread the infection of evil, and similar questions of an educative nature will stand in the forefront of the teaching program, which will be drawn up on a separate plan for each calling or state of life, and no wise generalization in teaching. All right. And there was an incident that happened recently, I forget where it was, where this teacher's trying to tell this Jake that the word nigger doesn't mean what you were taught, it just means ignorant. And the Jake is looking at him like, see, and this, wow. Wow, it's just wow. Let's see. 5. It says each state of life must be trained within strict limits corresponding to its destination of work in life. The occasional genius has always managed and always will manage to slip through into other states of life. But it is the most perfect folly for the sake of this rare occasional genius to let through into ranks foreign to them the untalented, who thus rob of their places who belong to those ranks by birth or employment. You know yourselves in what all this has ended for Goyim who allow this crying absurdity. 6. In order that he who rules may be seated firmly in the hearts and minds of his subjects, it is necessary for the time of his activity to instruct the whole nation in the schools and on the marketplaces about this meaning in his acts, all his beneficent initiatives. We shall abolish every kind of freedom of instruction. Learners of all ages have a right to assemble together with their parents in the educational establishments, as it were, in a club. During these assemblies on holidays, teachers will read what will pass as free lectures on questions of human relations, of the laws of examples, of the philosophy of new theories not yet declared to the world. And that was one of them. You have this, what's the term? Just as they did with religion, with the replacement theology. Revelation 20 about, you must be loosed a little season. And that little season started from the time of the Renaissance until now. He was set free to deceive the nations. That's what he has done. All right. What's the term? I can't think of it now. Maybe I will. So these theories will be raised by us to the stage of a dogma of faith as a traditional stage towards our faith. All right. On the completion or on the completion of this exposition of our program of action in the present and the future, I will read you the principles of these theories. Alright. In a word, number 8, knowing by the experience of many centuries that people live and are guided by ideas, that these ideas are imbibed by people only by the aid of education provided with equal success for all ages of growth, but of course by varying methods. We shall swallow up and confiscate to our own use the last scintilla of independence of thought. And that's what you're seeing here going on. You got people so confused now. There was one program I was watching. What was it? Was it Democracy? I think it was Democracy now. About this, talking about gender neutrality. They don't want to, you got to be careful what pronouns you use now. This is absolutely crazy. Talking about you can't call it breast milk now. And this place has got to go. But in the meantime, we're seeing lots of what? Division. Let's go. And this is a beautiful thing, all right? Because what they did to us is happening to them. This is let's see, Mark 3. And I said, it's beautiful, all the lies. I've got this book here with showing the real King James, all these things that took for granted, all right, and the real Scots and the real Britons. This is, of course, the Negro Question Part 4, The Missing Link. This is another book. It's called Dirty Little Secrets about Black History, its heroes, and other troublemakers. And the second book is called More Dirty Little Secrets, and it's all kinds of things in there that, of course, you weren't taught in school. They purposely left out. All right. This is Mark chapter 3. Let's see. We'll start at 24. It says, "And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against Satan," is what you're seeing now, "and be divided, he cannot stand, but hath an end." A lot of people get thrown off by Satan here because they're thinking the spiritual demon Satan. But let's go into that real quick. All right, here it is. As soon as it loads. All right, let's just let this do.
Strong's G 4567, Satanas. Thayer's Lexicon, Satan.
Simply put, the first one, outline of biblical uses. Adversary. One who opposes another in purpose or act. Alright? And this is where people get thrown off. The prince of evil spirits, the invertebrate adversary of the Most High and Yahweh Shai. Alright? He incites apostasy from the Most High and to sin. Alright? Let's see. Here it goes. Here's the bottom one, which actually is what it's talking about. A Satan-like man. Alright? There you go. The accuser. Alright? And, of course, we're talking about a representative of, alright, said angelic being on the mortal plane, being his representative. Alright, that's what you're talking about. That's why they get confused with Isaiah 14th chapter. Alright, it's talking about a man. It tells you that if you continue reading. It's talking about a man. Alright, and then you get into Revelation 12th chapter, Revelation 20th chapter. Alright, it's talking about a man. Revelation 13 and 16 and 17 is talking about a man. Alright, it's going to set forth that system. Alright, so we're talking about human adversary. That just happens to be the nation of Edom, who the Most High hates. It tells you that in various scriptures. Alright, in the New Testament, that's Revelation, Romans 9th chapter. Alright, specifically verse 13, but please read from the first verse on down. That answers several questions that you Christians seem like to be, you don't want answered, or you don't want to accept the answer that's there. Answers, excuse me, plural. Alright, so let's go back to this article. The so-called white rage. Where is it? What do you have to be enraged about? Again, like I said at the beginning, this is your kingdom. And yet what? Opioids. These are the curses that were on us that are being transferred onto you. Alright, that's Deuteronomy 30th chapter, verse 7. Alright, also Jeremiah. In fact, let's get that. This is Jeremiah 30th chapter. Alright, you thought that you were going to get away with everything that you did to us. But oh no. You thought you were just going to ride off into the sunset. Nah. This is Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 16. All the lies and everything talking about you are the people of the Most High, when in fact you're not. This is Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 16. Therefore all they that devour thee, and we have been devoured, shall be devoured. And all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity, and they shall spoil thee, and they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. Alright? And you associate this with what? Revelation 13, 9, and 10. Let's get that real quick. Alright? Whoops, here we go again. Come on, blue letter. Alright, let's try that again. Here we go. This is Revelation 13. Let's start at 9. It says, if any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And the saints are the Israelites only, no one else. Alright, I mentioned earlier too about this replacement theology. They say that everyone can make it. Alright, that's never in the scriptures. Never. It was about, in the beginning, one seed line from Genesis, alright, all the way up until now. It was never about anybody else. Alright? That's why you got to be careful, alright, with that replacement theology, these churches, alright, because they're trying to say that Israel is done away with, and it never says that. So these are just lies by, again, the nation of Edom primarily, because all these universities, all these theological seminaries and all this is their doing. This is from what? The false prophet, the Catholic Church, and all those denominations that stem from that. It's nothing but lies. All right. So now let's see. Have anything else left in this? Let's see. It says, let me see what time I got here. Whoa, boy. Okay. It says the centuries of white mob violence, alright, that black people have endured, marched against, and spoke out on have not created the level of attention or awareness necessary to enact effective and significant change. White people have used their anger, whether real, imagined, or fabricated, to frequently turn into lawless criminals, often exacting vengeance and terror on black communities at their whim. Think Tulsa, Oklahoma, so-called Black Wall Street. All right, it was the Greenwood community. They often use these moments for their sadistic pleasure. That's a good example. Rosewood and a lot of others, while claiming to be moral superiors to blacks and saviors of a civilized society. And we know that was all a lie. There was enormous jealousy and, as a result, envy of what we had accomplished in several settlements after slavery, after Reconstruction, or during, that these people, wait a minute, these were our niggers, they were our slaves. We can't allow this, again, out of petty jealousy and envy, because even in their own kingdom, all right, they grew up to be nothing. How is that our fault? But again, you know, we were supposed to turn to our power, and a lot of our people will not do so because we're still under the curses. All right, and these savages, all right, were put over us in order to teach us a lesson. Alright, it says the infamy of January 6th will live on, not because of the death and destruction left behind in its wake, but rather because unchecked white rage turned its very regular frenzied behavior, resulting in violence, terror, trauma, and death on its own. The white mob unleashed its fury on other white people who they themselves believed to sit at the very pinnacle of power. The videos on replay show those white men and women frantically running in fear for their lives. They were ushered back and forth through corridors as they searched for a place to hide, a safe haven. Many of them huddled in closets and under desks, hoping for the threat to be over, but not knowing when or if they would make it. Unfortunately, I am no stranger to witnessing black bodies run in fear for their lives. And we know this is all set up. And as a result, this is February 22nd. You still got troops here, and they just came out, I think it was one day last week, saying that they predict that those troops will be here through next fall. All right, so they accomplished what they wanted to accomplish, and you people don't realize you're being used. But we all know that, hey, prophecy must be fulfilled, all right, and you're being used to accomplish that. So, hey, oh, and it's going to get much worse, trust me, all right, because Texas was happening down there, as an example. You're having people getting fleeced, all right, those that still have power, by these power companies. All right, an example of that is in one day you've seen prices jump $5,000 on individual bills. Yes, that's what's happening. So, much more is yet to be seen from this, but for time's sake, I'm going to stop it there. And I'll just post this because there's a lot more to be read here. I'll post this in the description box, the link to this article. Alright, so with that, call Allah Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim Nakar Dash. Alright, so Shalom.